Hello and welcome to another episode of By the Horns. Today I'm joined by Brandon van Niekerk to talk about the ongoing saga that is FTX, how it's destroying a whole bunch of people's money. It's taking down a bunch of the crypto industry and taking down crypto markets with us. It just seems to be getting worse and worse as the days go by. Anyway, it's a good segue for the sponsor of the show, SatStacker, which is the only way to accumulate Bitcoin directly to your own self-custody wallet with a repeat purchase order. Basically means you set and forget it. It sends the Bitcoin to your wallet, so you never have to trust an exchange with your Bitcoin. With that, guys, onto the show. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to By the Horns, a Bitcoin podcast about South Africa. And I'm joined by my former co-host and co-founder of Bitwise, Brandon van Niekerk. Brandon, so good to have you back, bro. Welcome.
Good to be back. Thank you, man. Thank you. Good to be back.
How you been, dude?
Everything's good. I'm living outside of South Africa now. Don't have electricity issues, but I'm back next week. And you know what? No matter where you go in the world, South Africa is always the best country, no matter what. Nothing can beat it.
Yeah. Well, we're actually doing this recording right now during load shedding. Like I'm running off a battery, so load shedding won't stop us, bro. Yeah. So I mean, you moved to Mauritius, right? For work and for tax purposes. How's that been going for you?
It's good. It's I live in a very quiet part of Mauritius, and it's very chilled living. It's very easy living. It's a lot of family values. Yeah. It's not a cosmopolitan lifestyle, and I think a lot of people go crazy because a lot of the days are the same thing. But you've got to be happy with, if you want a family and pets and all those things, and you're happy with that, then you'll have a great time. But if you don't, and you want different things and you want exciting things in the world, I don't think it's for most people nowadays. But for the people that you and I like to hang around with, I think they'll love it.
Yeah, man, and you were saying last time you were down here that they're starting up a direct flight from Cape Town to Port Louis soon. So that's going to be amazing. Shoot straight over, because now you've got to fly via Joburg before you fly to Mauritius.
Yeah, so all the way past Joburg, it was a whole day affair, but now it's, I don't know, 5-6 hour flight. So it's very relaxed. I'm doing that on Wednesday. Can't wait to see home. Can't wait to see the family. I'm getting married. It's exciting times.
Don't I know it? It's gonna be great.
Yeah.
Yeah. So before we not going to dive too much into that, but a lot of shit's been going down in the crypto industry, crypto markets the last few days. FTX imploding. Looks like it's going to zero. Looks like they are not getting bailed out by CZ and Binance. Because Binance had one look at their books and they were like, we want no part in this. Yeah, I mean, play shitcoin games, win shitcoin prizes, right?
Yeah, so that just came out. Came out today or yesterday. I don't know. Things have been happening so quickly because remember what led to this all. Okay, so what led to this all was all the actions that this guy took, right? He took many actions to get to the point that he did, but it's on the 2nd of November that there was an article that came out on CoinDesk. It's a shitcoin publication, but sometimes their things are quite interesting. And they went on to explain like what the situation what the situation is between FTX and their sister company, because that's what I'll call it, Alameda, looks like. So basically a balance sheet and a movement of funds or movement of assets that was completely toxic and extremely irregular. That's the 2nd of November, and we're on the 10th of November now. So that's how quickly things move. I mean, if you look back at the history of FTX, they formed themselves in May 2019. They eventually got to a valuation on the first raise through Binance Labs, at $1.2 billion. And then along the way from then, so early 2020 to now, they've eventually became the second biggest crypto exchange in the world behind Binance. in terms of derivative markets, probably third or fourth in terms of spot markets. And I mean, this guy's net worth based on his assets went up to around $90 billion. And he was the king of the town, and he was on many ads, and he had Bill Clinton and Tony Blair at his conferences, and everybody loved him. But he did the exact same cycle of things where he created an exchange, he created his own ICO, he pumped that through marketing efforts or whatever collateral he had or whatever funding he had. He moved that value to a counterparty, right? Alameda, and that counterparty through him and through them and Alameda basically pumped this valuation up to say, okay, this party bought all these assets, they own these assets, now we're at this valuation, you can give us more money. And then they raised Series A, Series B, Series C, and that's what they eventually led up towards. And that's what led to their own demise.
Yeah, I mean, so this all happened really quickly. So from 2019 to now, it's not a long time at all. And they just achieved like stratospheric heights. But what it seems like nowadays is all just a fiat Ponzi, really. They got a bunch of investment from all the wrong people, I suppose, in our books anyway. And it's all coming apart now. But the thing is, he's probably it's gonna be like Lehman Brothers, and it's gonna be like the 2008 financial crash. He's probably not gonna go to jail, but everyone loses their money, right? $8 billion of client funds locked up. So what happens to those people's money now, right? There's a liquidation process like Mt. Gox.
We don't know. So I think he released a statement, if not like 30 minutes to an hour ago, trying to explain. It's a standard statements that even Mashinsky released after Celsius. But the problem is that America's regulation also was a cause of this chaos. So there's many factors that led to this chaos, and they became a exchange ex USA because of just terrible regulation. But they still were able to market to and take on American clients. I mean, that's why you had the Tom Brady ads and all that. So they found an enormous loophole. And the fact that they're not in the US and the bigger company is the non-US company, right? There's FTX US and there's FTX non-US. That's the problem. It's the latter.
It's Bahamas, right?
It's Bahamas. And now what regulation deems, how Chapter 11 works there, I don't know. And it's all jurisdictional games now, but it's not looking good because who's the buyer of this debt? Who's the buyer of what just happened? And the thing is, people just will try and make this an extremely complex topic. It's not. These guys were an exchange. An exchange is willing buyers, willing sellers coming into your exchange and selling. I'm just talking about spot right now, selling Bitcoin or whatever shitcoin to each other. But because it's a custodial wallet, and they say, okay, you have X amounts of Bitcoin now because you bought it from person Y on our exchange. Okay, this is what they say you are. This is how much Bitcoin they say you have. They had all this Bitcoin coming on from willing sellers, but then they did many dodgy things with that Bitcoin, just like so many people beforehand. And now, because all these crypto exchanges needed to differentiate each other from one another, I'm talking about Coinbase, I'm talking about all these guys, I don't know if they're doing it or not. They had to differentiate from each other by adding new products and trying to get clients interested in them because the competition got more fierce. They started adding yield providing products. And now yield providing products is when they need to basically move towards a fractional reserve system. They have to. And that's what FTX did. And we don't know who else is doing that. Celsius did it. All the other guys that are going down did it. And they're all intertwined with one another now through different various contracts. So we don't know how deep the rot goes.
Well, we know for one that BlockFi was struggling and they got bought out by FTX. So now all the BlockFi users are going down with FTX as well, right? I mean,
BlockFi will go down if there's no willing buyer, and I don't know who would buy it in the current. Let's just talk about the macro economy right now. There's no one buying that type of risk right now.
If Binance is not buying it, who's going to buy it? Like,
there's no one.
I mean, it sucks. It sucks for people who are losing their money, right? Like, there's a lot of people who are going to lose their money. But there's a simple solution to this, right? And that is you self-custody your Bitcoin and you don't play shitcoin games. We've seen this happen so many times. People don't want to learn. And unfortunately, you learn the hard way. I mean, I've seen altcoiner capitulation on Twitter yesterday like I've never seen before. A lot of people just saying, I'm done. I can't deal with this anymore. I'm out. Looks like capitulation to me. But yeah, they could avoid all of this if they just held their own Bitcoin on their own wallets, so, their hardware wallets or whatever, held their own keys and just carried on about their lives doing what they're good at instead of trying to be a trader. You can avoid all of this.
Yeah, you can avoid. Okay, well, there's two steps there. The first step is there are a lot of altcoins that are controlled by higher powers. I'm not saying what names they are, but those keys were never yours in the first place, no matter how you hold them. And you can derive that in many ways. I derive it from the fact that they can deem like how it works, what the supply is, and all those things. That's how I look at it. Everybody into their own. Okay, so that's number one. So if we just talk about Bitcoin, which is what I really care about, if you are holding your own keys, then yes, you're fine. But even you and I, we talk to a lot of Bitcoiners every day, and there's a lot of them who are not doing it, and they're just, I don't know. I don't seem to understand why they don't hold their own keys, because there's so many easy solutions out there. But to me, it was plain and simple when I first got in very long ago, even when the products for that were pretty shit at the time. Today, they're incredible. But that's just where you got to start. It's what you have to do. This is not a sign to people to hold their own Bitcoin, which is the whole point of it. I don't know what is. I don't know what is.
Yeah, man, it comes down to the convenience factor, like you're kind of alluding to now. A lot of people don't want to hold their own Bitcoin because they see it as being a technical constraint that's a bridge too far for them. But I mean, it's a good segue into what we've done at Bitvice, and this is what we're trying to get across to our clients and to everyone, who will listen, is that you should hold your own Bitcoin, and it's really not that hard. There's various ways of doing this, but it's as simple as writing down your 12 words, storing that somewhere safe, and having a software wallet in your phone, right? That's the first step. Just using Blue Wallet or Moon or, take your pick. There's so many wallets you can choose from, and custodying your keys yourself. And it's really not that hard. And then the second thing is that I don't know why it is, but people typically feel that when they get into Bitcoin and cryptocurrency in general, they feel like they have to become a trader, which is like the worst move you could ever make. Because 97% of traders lose money over all their money over a 5-year term. So just don't trade. So hold your own keys and don't trade, just accumulate, stack sats, right? That's the name of the game, really. And that's what led us to build this product that was called SatStacker, right? We just saw this happening left, right, and center to everyone. And we realized that what people really need to be doing is just accumulating passively and carrying on focusing on what they're good at. So maybe you want to dive into how we build SatStack and like what happens under the hood, so people know.
Yeah, sure. So I mean, the problem with buying Bitcoin is the fiat side. So Bitcoin is the most liquid asset in the world, and to get it, if you in a global nature, is very easy. It's the fiat side of it. So to pay ZAR or USD or euros, whatever, to buy it, it's extremely complex because that's the system they've built. So that's what we've partnered with a payment provider that just allows you to set up a recurring order, and you can buy it from at least 500 Rand a week. You can set straight to your wallet. If you don't have a wallet, you can look at the options to say, and it's on the application to say, okay, what are my best options, whether it's a software wallet, because most people should start there. It's free, it's easy, and it's very secure, and way more secure than any custodian. It's your private keys. And then once you're comfortable with that, you can move to a hardware wallet, which costs, just over 1,000 Rand, which is, it's not a lot of money these days. And once you're comfortable with that, you're going to be very comfortable with this, with the second option there. And then number three, when Bitcoin inevitably grows to what it will grow to in the world we live in today, and this will take some time, you can use that same hardware wallet to set up a multi-sig. But I mean, Bitwise helps anybody through that optionality. There's different packages you can buy and consultations if they want. But I mean, any Joe and Sally can do it.
Yeah, it's super easy, man. So let's dive into the fiat acquisition side. So we partnered with Stitch to do this. What really sets us apart, this product wouldn't have been viable if we had to run it on a card rail. So if someone had to use their card to buy Bitcoin, the fees involved with processing cards, I mean, you work in that industry, it's astronomical. So for a small business who hasn't got a large volume and hasn't negotiated a different rate with MasterCard, you're looking at like 3% just to acquire funds. So for us to do SatStacker, we kind of, it doesn't make sense for our users to pay 3% on top of the spread they pay for Bitcoin as well. You're going to be looking at like, I don't know, 6-7% fee then on buying a Bitcoin, which is not really viable. So we looked long and hard at how we're going to do this. And we realized the EFT rail is the best way to go. It's basically peer-to-peer, right? So they're sending money directly to our bank account. And this is why we partnered with Stitch to do this. So Stitch allows you to link your bank accounts. So it creates a beneficiary, which is us, Bitwise, and then runs automated payments. So you set that up, you're in full control. You authorize the linkage, and then you can shut it down from your banking app at any point in time if you want to, and also obviously from the Bitwise app you can stop your orders. So the other reason besides the fee side of it is just that the fraud on the EFT rail is like non-existent, close to non-existent, whereas on the card rail it's prevalent. So that was a big one for us. Is like, how do you make this what sounds like such a simple product initially? Sure, buy Bitcoin on a recurring basis. It's actually technically quite difficult to pull off because you got to go pull all these systems together to make it work. And then the other side of the equation is, how do you distribute small amounts of Bitcoin on chain to people in a financially viable manner? So that was an interesting one for us, right? Like, how do we make this model work? Because if someone's buying 500 Rands worth of Bitcoin, you have to send it to them immediately, and the fees, on-chain fees, are high, then sometimes that dog don't hunt, right? So we've had to be very clever about how we do things, and this is why we've got set days. Our orders run on a Monday. You get your sats distributed. Well, we collect all our funds on the Monday. We've got to wait for the money to arrive by the banking rail, which is like 2 days, and then we distribute all the sats at the same time. So that's why there's like a period, a waiting period. It's because we're waiting for the fiat rail to catch up. Then the distribution is the clever part. And I don't know what BIP it was in, but allowing to send multiple transactions in one transaction is a game changer. Because we can effectively send everyone's funds at the same time in one on-chain transaction, which is pretty cool. And that's how we can batch a bunch of small transactions together. But it's working. I mean, we just wrapped up our beta a few weeks ago. We took the product live after that, and it's out there in the wild performing. We haven't had a single payment fail yet, which is great. It's working well, and it's really set and forget. The only banks that give a bit of issues are Capitec, and it's not really a problem. It's just you have to authorize every payment manually on your banking app, which you don't get that like complete like set and forget feel. You've got a once a week or once a month, depending on your frequency, go in and actually action that transaction. Some people might like it. They'll probably get tired of it after a while. It becomes a bit annoying. But yeah, man, it's cool. It works. We're very stoked. It took us a while to get it built. I think we didn't quite anticipate how much stuff there would be to do. But we pulled it off and it's out in the wild. I'm very stoked.
Yeah, I mean, I the thing I'm most happiest about is exactly what I always wanted. I mean, that's what we did. We just built what we
Literally,
wanted
right?
as Bitcoiners. Yeah.
Yeah. You and I both were like, we want this service. No one else is going to do it for us. So we're going to have to build it ourselves. And luckily our CTO is a genius. So he managed to pull it off. But yeah, it's like no one else is doing this. No one else is doing a direct to self-custody stacking product, let alone in South Africa, like very few in the world. I know Better was doing it. They were based in Portugal and they shut down, and now see they're back up again, which is great news for the Europeans. And then obviously Rely in Switzerland is doing it. Swan in the
Relied
States.
does it.
Yeah, but none of them are doing direct to self custody. It always goes to like an intermediary wallet. You got to request a withdrawal, right? Or set up auto withdrawal.
Yeah, so I mean, basically, Swan in America, which is the biggest one, is they actually beg users to take the Bitcoin off exchanges, but they keep it because a lot of users aren't comfortable to do so. But I don't like holding people's Bitcoin. I'm
No,
not interested in that.
Not interested at all. I mean, just from a risk perspective, for us, we're a small company, we're a small team, we all do this part time. We don't want to be holding people's Bitcoin and have that liability, you know?
No.
I don't want people showing up to my house with guns being like, give us your client's Bitcoin. You know, for one, we live in South Africa. That's a real risk. That's why Luna doesn't make their office location known. For two, like it's just, we've seen what happens with FTX, you know? You hold people's Bitcoin, one thing leads to another. Next minute, you're dipping into client funds. And doing some DJ and shitcoin trading. You know, on that topic, this is a podcast I've been researching and I haven't quite, it hasn't been released yet. But there was a local South African company that was doing crypto index funds. And, this is all public knowledge. Nothing I'm saying has not been said before, but basically it's been alleged that the then CEO went on a coke fueled bender, dipping into clients' funds, trading DJ and trading on FTX, and lost a bunch of client money. That whole company is shut down now. So yeah, but I mean, this stuff happens, bro.
Yeah, it's sad, like I remember us a while ago when we first met and we've gone through this whole journey after a couple of years. Like we were quite toxic guys, but the fact that I've become so, I don't know, just non-emotional to it all, or unemotional to it all, I actually start to feel for the counterparty, and the counterparty, all these people who lost money. And right now I actually feel for the millions of people or hundreds of thousands of people who've just lost money through FTX. And there's going to be unfortunately, there's going to be a lot of other large players, institutional players in the market that have already been hit and they're already dead, but they're going to start floating to the top now as dead bodies. And you just haven't seen it yet. Because everybody leverage themselves to the tits. And this is like the perfect example, like the perfect analogy of what this is. This is a fiat mindset in a market with no real consequences. And if you just take that imprint and move it a little bit to the right or left, whatever you want to look at, whichever way you look at the world, the current financial system is the exact same thing, but there's just a higher power at the top that bails them out every time because people just believe they can do so. And that's all it is. You've just seen in the Bank of England a month ago, literally to the second, the Bank of England with the bond markets there. Those bond markets and those in the pension funds in the UK, whether you know this, you should know this by now, but they couldn't find return in an environment with no yield. So they leveraged themselves through LDIs. And because they did so, and as soon as the bond market turned, and as soon as the judgment came home, they were found naked, and they were extremely naked at that point. And luckily, the Bank of England,
naked and afraid.
and the Bank of England bailed them out. But if they hadn't, the entire system would have collapsed in the UK. The entire system. The contagion from that alone would have completely ruined everything. And that Bank of England right at the top bailed them out because people believe that the money they make out of nothing is worth something. And that's the only thing that saves society at that point. And the fact that FTX now didn't have the higher power to bail them out, because that's just not how the current system works, has led to this. But there will be the moments in the future where people go, wait, that higher power actually, they're worth nothing. They do nothing. Whatever they do, they actually have no power. And that's when Bitcoin will see its day. So everybody's really hurting now, and a lot of people have lost their money. And we know, you and I have continuously implored people over many years to just hold their own fucking Bitcoin. But and Bitcoin's price will do what it does over the next few years. It doesn't matter. There will come that point where the whole system has to turn to something that humans can't control. And that's all you and I look towards, right? And other guys, and those people will grow.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I find the most egregious about the whole UK pension thing was that they blamed that all on Liz Truss and the moves that the tax cuts they were postulating as if that is what caused the crisis in the UK pension funds. Not at all. It's the incessant money printing and the decisions made by administration after administration kicking the can down the road. They set her up and they made the media obviously plays the game and they act as if it was her fault, but I mean she has no power there. It's not at all what's going on. This is between the Fed and banks of the rest of the world. The Fed is raising rates and they are killing other economies because they have to get inflation under control in their own country, and they don't care about other countries at the end of the day. But this is what you end up with central banking. This is a logical conclusion of it. You've got the bank with the biggest dick and the biggest paycheck or checkbook is going to call the shots, and the reserve currency is going to call the shots. And you can see other countries like the UK get absolutely wrecked along the way. Pension funds are going to go down. It's going to happen. It's inevitable, really.
Yeah. Yeah, basically, it's, if you look at the short term, I think this whole FTX thing and the other players that are about to implode as well has hurt the crypto community, which I don't give a shit about. But Bitcoin, its price is not looking good for the short term, and I think we just got to say it. In the medium term, so the CPI is just lower than the expectations that came out, an hour ago, and whatever you think of that, it is what it is. But the market's really like that, and the Fed will probably, I don't know what they can do because how can you just tell what 12 people are going to do? You just can't. But they will get to a point where their inflation targets have to be higher than 2%, between 4 to 5%, in my opinion. And as it moves closer towards that, they're going to, decrease their rate hikes. Then they're going to pause, and then they'll pivot. And once the pivot happens, once the pivot happens, it's because the shitcoin casino still happens, and it's because that the Fed pivot. The shitcoin casinos happen because people are stupid. The Fed pivot will work because people are stupid. And there's probably one or two, I don't know how many hurrahs left, how many bull markets are left. But the time will come where this has to end. And I just say, enjoy the show. Enjoy the show, and I just stack sats, stay humble, and I don't know, man.
Yep. Scoop up cheap sats while you can. Yeah. another plug here for SatStacker, right? Like this is exactly it. You can't time the market. You don't know what the market's going to do. You don't know if Janet Yellen is wearing a purple jersey, therefore she's going to be dovish. I mean, this is the ridiculous thing that came out a few years ago, but she's not in charge of the Fed anymore. But the point being, you have no idea what the Reserve Bank governors are going to do. They could go up, they could go down. Who knows? You're just a humble pleb. Just focus on the things in your life that you're good at and that bring you joy and accumulate sats without trying to time the market. Set a weekly purchase order on SatStacker. Carry on with your life because whatever's going to come is going to come. And just the last comment on what you're saying about all these companies that aren't dead yet, they're still floating to the surface. It's zombie companies, right? It's because we've had low interest rates for so low and so cheap that companies are up to the gills. And as soon as interest rates go up on that debt, their debt repayments, obligations go up, and they can't afford to pay. And this is where the mass insolvencies come. So if the Fed keeps hiking, you're going to see more and more bankruptcies. And it's going to be happening all over the world. It's not just going to be in America, right? Yeah. Cheap money coming to an end. I mean, they were living high on the hog for a long time. And there's a lot of zombie companies. And they're going to die. And there's a lot of companies rehypothecating your Bitcoin. So get your sats off exchange. Don't buy sats on leverage. Don't be accumulating Bitcoin on debt. Now's the time to be prudent, not to be direct.
Well said.
Thank you. Anyway, on that bombshell, Brandon, where can people hear on Twitter? You're not on Instagram, are you? Unfortunately.
I'm on Instagram or Facebook. I don't need to waste my life, but you can find me on Twitter at just hodling on, because that's all I'm doing. And and you can always reach out to me. And let's do this more, Ricky.
100%. We're going to be doing this soon at your bachelor party. Looking forward to it.
Nice.
Cool, bro. We'll catch up soon. Thank you very much. And guys, stack sats. Stay safe. Cheers.
Cheers, man. Bye.